Welcome to The Firing Line with Philip Naiman. The Firing Line radio show is brought to you by Turner's Outdoorsman, IndustryGreetings.com, CCW Safe, Cutting Edge Bullets, Vortex Optics, Vortex, the Force of Optics, and by Philip Naiman and Cornerstone Christian Wealth Management.
Good, bad. I'm the guy with the gun.
And now your host, Philip Naiman.
Hello, folks. Welcome to another edition of Firing Line Radio Show. I hope you're having a great day. I hope you're having a great Christmas season here. We're all getting together and enjoying things as the Dow is melting down and our economy is flown into the side of a mountain by FJB. So, we all need to do things together and we need to support one another. And we need to make sure that we vote correctly the next time around. I'll just put it that way. Joining me on this special, all my shows are special. All my guests are special. My education was special. Joining me on this special show, I have Stan Goligoski and I have Grant Kazada. Now, Grant's been on the show a few times before. You might remember that. He's a Ranger, owns Founding Fathers. Stan is a new person here, and we'll get you an introduction to him real quickly. But the reason that we're on the show today is we all just came back from South Dakota up at Halverston Hunts. Stan, why don't you go ahead and give us a little introduction about yourself?
Yeah. Thanks for having me. I'm a raised in Prescott, Arizona boy. Then joined the service, the Army in 2000. And I'm sorry, we're 2000, but 1992, and right out of high school, enlisted, and then transitioned to the officer ranks. Served in a number of special units. And through my 21-year military career, and retired and moved right back to Prescott. And I've been in Prescott now 9 years. My wife Janelle and I, we've got 3 boys, and we're just raising them in the same community and hoping to have the same community experience that we enjoyed growing up here. And that's the way it's trending right now.
Now you've decided to get involved in some local stuff too, haven't you?
I have, yeah. I recently was elected to the local Prescott Unified School Board, and it's a 4-year seat. I did work in the county education department right out of the military, and that really got my foot in the door and kind of getting a good look on what was going on across the communities. And then I joined the private sector now a year ago, the production manager out at Milgard, MI Windows and Doors, national chain, and fortunate enough to land a great job there, and then can also work and serve in the community under this capacity.
And it's absolutely important that we have quality people on the school boards. We see time and time again the issues that happen with our schools. So thank you for serving again. Almost as crazy a battlefield, probably dealing with teachers unions and everything else.
Yeah, seems like it. Yeah.
At least when you're fighting Taliban, you know who the bad guys were. They had the little thing on the head and AK-47, but
yeah, pretty much. Yeah, and a crazy beard, and I don't know. Yeah.
It smelled like goat, ode to goat. Yeah, that would be the one.
Yep.
Durka. Hey, Grant, why don't you give a little recap for the people who haven't seen your other shows?
Yeah, so I joined the Army in 2006 at the age of 23, spent 8 years on active duty, and then got out in 2014, and I've been serving in the Arizona National Guard since then. I started a company called John Hancock Barbershop, and then after several years, partnered with a childhood buddy of mine who was an Air Force veteran, and we own Founding Fathers Collective, which is now it's 6 companies under one roof, and we opened that about 2 years ago. So really our goal with that was to kind of create a community hub that doubles down on the cultural values, ethics of what Prescott represents and why it attracts the people it does. And the goal really is how do you keep that and grow it in perpetuity for our kids and for the community, but not lose sight of our core values and principles.
We air in Southern California also. So what exactly are the Prescott principles you feel are important?
I feel, a love of country, very civic minded, community focused. I'd say there's a pretty healthy base of individuals here that hold true to some semblance of faith and just service within the community. And so we attract, a decent broad group of individuals, but I think everybody moves here with the intention to be a part of the community. And as we continue to grow, I think Stan and myself and several of our peers, the focus really is, accepting in a healthy level of growth, but not losing sight of really what attracted people here in the first place, or have kept them here or have brought them back.
You can feel it. We did the courthouse lighting beginning of December, and they read Luke 2. Now try doing that in California. You can read to trans books to children, but you couldn't read them Luke 2. So it's an important thing that people have their heads screwed on here. The other thing that's, you two are two perfect examples. Prescott has got so many ex-military special forces guys, you can't throw a rock without hitting one of them. So basically it's why you don't throw rocks in Prescott. So
That's true.
It's a very tight community, just amazing. I've been very blessed to be here and to become part of it here. But so anyway, Grant, you decided years back, or you got involved years back in a pheasant hunt. So how did that start?
Yeah, so I got invited 6 years ago now from a friend of mine I grew up with who was also an Air Force veteran. He's a dentist now here in town. So his father had gone about 20 years ago with several of his classmates from college and hadn't been back since. And they had 4 openings. So myself and my friend Aaron, his dad Paul, and another gentleman, Dennis, all went. And at the end of the trip, Paul had asked if I could get a bus full of guys to go this next year from Prescott. And so that was year 2. We got 21 guys, and real quickly it grew to, I think the most we've had is 58. This year was 47. But really, yeah, that's the genesis of how it got started. So
this is a group pheasant hunt, right? And so it's, well, Halverston Hunts, I think, was the company we went with, right?
Yep.
And you want to say anything about them, or they're?
Yeah, so Steve Halverson, I think his father started the hunt back in 1981 or 4 or something like that. They've been doing it for quite a long time. I believe it's one of the largest, if not the largest, kind of pheasant hunts you can do in South Dakota. They have a 5 or 10,000 acre farm, and they lead everybody out in buses. So it's 20 guys per bus, 22 guys per bus.
You literally are riding a school bus.
Yes.
With shotguns. It's a whole new thing. If we did that in the inner city, things would be cleaned up. It's perfect.
Yeah. And I remember listening to the first safety brief, and I'm sure you gentlemen can attest to this, but as they were sketching out on the whiteboard, I kind of was looking at this thinking, I believe this is also called a Polish ambush. I don't know if this is safe.
Yeah. It's a circular firing squad.
Yeah. Turned out that we all lived and now it's year 6, and other than getting shot with a few pellets every once in a while.
Well, not shot, but sometimes they may rain down in your area.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a little bit different on that. How long have you been hunting?
This was my first hunt. So I grew up here in Prescott, single mom for most of my formative years until my stepfather came along. But I never really grew up hunting. So this was a fun hunt to go on, and especially as a first experience for hunting. I've been hunting since then a little bit for deer and elk, but this hunt compared to those other hunts, I love it. I think it's a great way to connect with other friends and men in the community and bring people together around a common cause that tends to be very enjoyable and extremely fun, and it's pretty much a carnival shoot, as you guys can attest. So
yeah, there was a lot of action. I think it's also something that really anybody can do. It's not like you're doing a sheep hunt or you have to haul out elk quarters from 3 miles off the canyon floor. It's a very doable hunt for really anybody. We had some guys who were ready for knee surgery and they were able to partake. So, it all depends on the level of activity you want, but I would say even what they considered the most strenuous thing was really just walking down a field. So it was
A couple hundred yards max.
What'd you say?
A couple hundred yards max.
Yeah. It was, if you've never hunted and you want something, and it's a good way to start, especially if you have good gun discipline, which is an important thing always, but even more so when you're in a group situation. So we're going to take a break here. Folks, this is Philip Naiman, Firing Line Radio Show. We're going to talk more about this pheasant hunt, how you can get involved, how you can set them up yourself, and just what it's like, to go out with a group of guys and have your first hunt and the country and the camaraderie and yes, and even pheasants. We'll be right back after this. Get our podcast at firinglineradio.com.
Bueno, so far.
All right, I'm gonna set my timer so I can see where we're at.
Stan, how's your day going, man?
What's that?
How's your day going, buddy?
Oh, it's been you put out fires in the morning and then you try and.
When does your tenure or your school district involvement start? January?
Well, I actually was sworn in early because there was a vacancy, and so I was a top vote getter. So they said they wanted to fill that seat through December. So I've already attended one meeting or participated. So the rest of everybody else's will be joining in the January meeting.
I got to tell you, I love the fact that you guys are willing to get up there and serve. I've been approached in the past about getting involved in that, but man, how do you sit through those meetings? I just don't know. And especially if you're doing something like city council or state assembly, in California, the state assembly is BS crazy. And, the guano crazy. And how you don't just throw your shoe at them halfway through a meeting, I don't understand. They set off your Tourette's with their stupidity. It's just, hey, we all have our limits, and listening to BS and guano forever is just unbelievable. I don't know how they did it. I had a good friend, Mike Morrell. He termed out in the assembly, termed out in the Senate. I mean, he loved it. He loved to try and fight the fight, but boy, that's got to just take years off your life. So hats off to you for being able to do that. Plus, you can probably just walk over to them and look down on them and they'll just shut up, right? For those of you who don't know, Stan there is like a 6'8" Viking. I think, they wrote the book Beowulf about him, but anyway.
That does help, right?
Yeah.
No, you know what? I was on city planning and zoning, and that was frustrating. And I think the biggest, to answer your question, you got to tune out a lot of noise, and and there's so much of it now, and there are people's opinions and whatnot. You got to absorb as much as you can, make a decision, based. And you know what? If your heart is in the community, they're pretty easy decisions, honestly.
Well, they are, but you still have to sit through it. I mean, let's go back to the days of Andrew Jackson and Aaron Burr, and we'll settle this. We're done.
Right. Yeah, no doubt.
We can have 900 meetings or one duel.
Thank you. Right. I think Jackson had something like 200 plus duels.
Yeah. He shot himself. He shot his way into the presidency.
Yeah, that's what happened, right?
All right. You guys ready? Section 2? All right.
Just a sec. I made a mistake. I played the audio, but no one could hear it. Here we go. This portion of the firing line is brought to you by Turner's Outdoorsman.
All right, you primitive screwheads, listen up. See this? This is my boomstick.
Hey, folks, welcome back to Boomstick Radio. And I got to tell you, in South Dakota, there were some boomsticks going off. We were up in Halverston Hunts in Owacoma, or I'm in Acoma, South Dakota. Yeah. And what's the name of it, Grant?
We stayed in Owacoma, but it's in Kennebec, South Dakota.
Yeah, the hunts in Kennebec. That's right. We stayed in. I'm in Tacoma, South Dakota, and right on the Missouri River, which was frozen. Which ought to tell you exactly how warm it was when we were out there. First morning, right? The temperature gauge on the vehicles driving out there, ours hit 7. But the good part, you talk about global warming. By the time we got out to Kennebec, it was 14. So we had 100% increase in global temperature just driving out there. Obviously we need to cut down on our fossil fuels because you just can't have that going on. So let's start with you, or on this section, Stan. Why don't you give us a little bit about your background as far as hunting is concerned?
Yeah, I was the same way as Grant. Did very little hunting growing up in Prescott. And then I was stationed in Alaska. Did more hunting just because that's what you do up there.
What did you hunt in Alaska?
Yeah, nothing big game. I would go out. I never shot a moose, but I went on a couple of moose hunts with some guys. I fished a lot. We would shoot grouse, so more kind of what or ptarmigan is what they call it up there. Different type of bird, but it's like a grouse. And yeah, that was basically it. I just when you're out, and I think maybe where Grant comes from is especially when you're in the service, for one, the time to do it and the time away from family is kind of tough, and so when you're young, maybe we just don't. I didn't personally focus on it, and that was by choice. So it's nice.
It does depend upon your family. I probably would have gone hunting. So
yeah, yeah. Leave was hard to come by a lot. Service for sure. Yeah.
Very cool. Yeah, Alaska is an amazing place. I think I was blessed last year to be able to go on an Alaskan trip, and all I can say is that the vastness of that country, it stays with you. It is so remote, so big. We're on a mountain looking into these other valleys, and nobody's ever been there because it is physically impossible unless you're flown in on a helicopter into those back glaciers. You couldn't carry enough food, you couldn't carry enough safety gear. You wouldn't live long enough to get through all those miles and miles of crevasses in these glaciers just to get to the back country. And you certainly couldn't travel over the mountains because they're all slicked and iced. And it was just amazing. And the one thing I learned in Alaska is that nobody cares and nobody's coming for you.
Yeah.
If you die there
out there, you bet there's no backstop to where the next road is or wherever there's no real, and there's not any major terrain features in some places that, someone can find you.
Zero. And you're just going to end up decomposed grizzly poop at the end of the day. So you certainly don't want to fall, because that's where you're going to end up there. Just huge country. It's so hard to explain until you've actually seen it. Anyway, did you get the same feeling up there?
100%. Yeah. I mean, what you have Anchorage that has, a couple 100,000 people, and the next largest town is Fairbanks, and that's smaller than the size of Prescott, so that's the population that lives up there. But the size of Alaska takes up a third of the size of the United States, so I mean, it's very vast, like you said.
Yeah, it is huge. It is huge. Anyway, okay, so let's get into what we did here. Grant, you decided to organize a pheasant hunt. So how did that? You said you went, then they asked you to get a bus full. So what goes on with that?
Yeah, so we all stay at the Arrowwood Cedar Shore Resort in Oakoma, and then every night we do dinner as a group of men and friends, and then we wake up around 9, head out to hunt around 9:15, 9:30.
It's a gentleman's hunt. We're not talking about first light or pre-light hiking out into there. I think isn't it in South Dakota you can't hunt birds before 10 a.m.?
Yeah, I believe so. So it definitely makes for a very comfortable hunt and experience, and a lot more of a relaxing time with your buddies. And so you hunt at 10 and you're usually done by 1 or 2, and you just head back to the resort and hang out and sit in the sauna or the jacuzzi or the pool or watch sports. So, I mean, it's a
Those
good.
are indoor, folks. It was, I think we had a high of 14 or something. So
Yeah.
those are indoor pools.
Yep, it's a good reprieve from, I guess the business of life. So that was kind of the catalyst for trying to attract as many friends and other men within the community that I feel would get value from a hard year of work, and then being able to relax for about 4 days and just slow down. So
very good. Okay, so head out in the morning. It's 9:15. You got your mug of coffee. You're driving out there to Kennebec, making a left, heading down the dirt roads. What was Halverston's like? The facilities.
yeah, Stan, go for it. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, you are on a farm. I mean, this is a farm ranch, if you will, because I think Steve had close to 200 head of cattle on his land, and it's very apparent. I mean, their home is right there. They have a separate barn just for the hunt. For us, it's so well run, but you get the real feeling that, hey, this is a true family business. And the guys that they bring in to help out are, guys that are very seasoned, but, we have a retired school teacher that was out there helping, the kids that clean the birds on Sunday, they're high school kids. This is a lifestyle. It's a very deep roots lifestyle. And so when you walk into this shed, you have this immediate respect that, this is their livelihood. They're going to treat you right. I will tell you that Steve himself makes you feel like nobody is an idiot. I mean, if it's your first time or not. They obviously know what they're doing, but they're very welcoming. I mean, you could buy a hat, you could buy a sweatshirt, you could buy your shotgun shells there. They make it.
I think one of the guys got a Halverston Hunts tramp stamp, but that's just a rumor.
Yeah, you feel like you're part of a family, and you want to support them, you want to help them. We come in for lunch, the lady Mary, Mary is her name. She serves us, and she's like your mom. You want to treat her with respect.
That is her crock pot.
Yeah,
it's her
right?
fiefdom. That's what she does.
Isn't that crazy? So yeah, the initial thought is you feel comfortable, and probably the best way to put it.
Yeah, it was good. And so hop in a school bus. Everybody's got their guns unloaded, your safety checks, your briefings. Hop in a school bus, 5-10 minutes down the road. They start dropping people off alongside of the fields. What was your first impression on that, Stan?
Yeah, like anything, you hope that the lingo, you're going to pick up on it quickly, right? Because
like duck.
Yeah, right.
We're not ducking. Duck is a whole different meaning out there.
Right, you bet. Well, when he describes, hey, I'm going to drop people off, we all do the north-south. Like, yeah, we know exactly what you're talking about. We're going to get in the back of the pickup truck. But once you do one field, you get into the routine. So they've been doing it a long time. Again, they don't brush over anything. They've just perfected, just the conversation, what needs to be put out for information so that you can also enjoy yourself, because and really feel like that camaraderie can really sink in. So first impression is, hey, just tell me where to go, and I will. Your eyes are wide open because you want to make sure everybody is safe. Because that's, we know we're carrying weapons or shotguns, and there's terrain, and there's dogs, and there's a lot of moving parts for one.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so we're going to pick it up with you about the shooting when we come back here, Grant. So this is Halverston Hunts out in Kennebec, South Dakota. Philip Naiman Firing Line Radio Show. Get our podcast at firinglineradio.com. You see some YouTube channel stuff. We got that going on too. But anyway, hope you have a Merry Christmas. We'll be right back after this. I gave you 10 seconds to work with there, Dan.
Go with it.
I'll take it back later. Anything special you guys want to cover? Make sure we cover.
Yeah, I think you're gonna hit, like fellowship and everything else. I mean, it's probably what Cadillac. I'm sure that's the meat of what we'll be talking about.
Yeah. What about, does Prescott have any kind of rifle club or shotgun clubs in the school district?
No, yeah, nothing. Yeah, definitely not in the schools.
Yeah.
Everybody used to carry their shotguns in their truck, though. I'll tell you.
Dude, I remember, yeah, in high school, guys having shotguns or rifles in the back of their truck, and it was no big deal.
Yeah.
And there was no school shootings either.
No. There was even a knucklehead that had an AK-47 on his dashboard of his caddy.
Yeah.
That's a contradiction in terms, an AK-47 and a Cadillac. It's like East meets West.
Yeah.
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 All right, you guys ready? This is 3, right, Dan?
Yes, it is.
All right.
This portion of the firing line is brought to you by CCW Safe by Philip Naiman and Cornerstone Christian Wealth Management.
Spartans! Lay down your weapons! Pheasant! Come and get them!
Hey, folks, welcome back to Firing Line Radio Show. This is Philip Naiman here. I'm here with Grant Quezada and Stan Goliaski, a couple of men that were able to do a pheasant hunt with, in addition to 44 other men who went on this particular hunt. So full boat, full time, great group. And we're just talking about actually the different types of shooting that were out there. And we're going to get into what the pheasant hunt was like in a second here. Hey, Grant, they had planted fields, what they called food crop fields or food strips, right? What was the crop that they had in those?
It was sorghum, so it's like a different type of sugar. But yeah, that's all the fields that we were hunting. It was sorghum fields.
It's a weird looking thing. It almost looks like a stunted ear of corn with I don't know, like a giant buckwheat on top of it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And so how big were the fields?
Anywhere from 3 to maybe 6 football fields in length and half a football field to a football field wide.
Do you think any of them were 100 yards wide? They seem more like 40 yards wide.
I don't know. I think one of them, there's a few that are
that big,
pretty wide. Yeah. It just depends on what field you're at.
Yeah. I don't think I saw any that were that wide, but so you're in the pickup truck or the bus and they start dropping people off. So what does that look like?
You just line it up like a football field. So the 10, the 20, the 30-yard line all the way down, one guy on each side. And then you have 2 gentlemen that are walkers at one end, and they just kind of push through the whole field with a farmer or 2 and a couple canines. And then everybody just kind of slinks down.
For those that are non-military, those are called dogs. Those are our hunting dogs.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and those dogs are amazing. Just watching them work, they love it. They just run around and catch the bird.
And they used labs up there. And I don't know if that was really because of the temperature. Most upland game, you'll find something like a German short hair or a spaniel or a pointer, but they were using labs, and they're more of a flushing dog. So the difference is a pointer would run up, stop on the bird, and then they would come up and kick it. The flushers are just kind of running around, and sometimes they got a little too close to the birds. They kind of grabbed them.
They robbed us of our joy.
Next year, those bird dogs go on the guide's count, not ours.
Yeah.
Okay, so most of I think everybody out there, except for 3 or 4 guys, had 20 gauge or 12 gauges, right?
Yeah. I think you were the only one shooting a 20.
I think there were 2 other guys. There were 2 other guys that I did see, but most people had 12 gauges, and because it's a private kind of a planted bird hunt in some situations, a lot of the the firearm restrictions aren't enforced there, right?
Yeah. So no magazine capacity.
Limit.
I know I shoot a semi-auto Super X3 with an 11 round tube and one in the chamber with a red dot on it. So I'm just there to slay birds.
And you did.
Yeah.
So here's an interesting thing I saw. A lot of guys are using red dots, but maybe they hadn't shot with them for a time. But one of the things that I noticed for most of the guys who had a red dot on their shotgun was it really screwed up their cheek weld, right? Unless you have a riser on the gun, because the shotgun, if you have a typical 1100, say, your the gun stock, the drop at the comb and the drop at the heel are set up so that your cheek is right on top of that stock while you're looking down the barrel. So you've got proper eye formation, right? I mean, Grant, you've got all kinds of background in shooting. You could probably explain it better than I did. But if you throw a aim point or a red dot on top, that's 2 inches above the barrel line, and now you've got to lift your head up. Did you see guys having an issue with that?
I think where most of it lied was not necessarily the cheek to stock placement, but more of the acquisition of the red dot itself, and guys that had thrown it on maybe a week prior and didn't go out and either train with it or aren't too familiar with something like that on an actual shotgun. But I'd say by day 2, everybody who had one on, they picked up pretty quick. So
yeah, and the other thing would be your mount would be different because you'd have to have the gun lower. Anyway, there's lots of moving parts on that.
Yep.
Okay. And most of the guys had 12 gauge. Stan, what were you shooting?
Yeah, I had a 12 gauge Benelli. Yeah, it was semi-auto. It was great.
Which one? I love Benellis.
Grant, what did I have?
So it wasn't a Benelli, it was a Beretta. I thought it was a Benelli, but it was a Beretta. I don't know, man. It was a beautiful gun. So
yeah, I borrowed it from Grant, but it was actually Corey Bird's, and so I got to drive it for a while, and now I've already looked into what I'm going to get next.
Exactly. I think a lot of guys they went out there and now they got a dream list for Christmas here.
I did, for sure.
Yeah, we saw that too. There was a lot of guys who were out there for the first time and had a pump or something like that, and they're like, you know what, I like this. This is fun. So we just caused gun sales to go up by 46 shotguns in the Prescott area. And head on over to Tombstone Tactical or over to Turner's if you're in California, guys. They'll set you up for that. But no, semi-automatic is really awesome for this. Typically on a hunting rifle, you'll have 3, 2 in the magazine, 1 in the chamber, and that way that is in compliance with most, I should say that the word most, that's my get out of jail free card. Most game and fish laws everywhere would allow 3 if you have a semi-auto or a pump, 2 in the magazine, 1 in the chamber. Over-unders obviously just running 2, but you can run into issues if you have like a race gun, like what Grant had. If you have a race gun and you're out shooting on public land, you could run into an issue. So you really have to watch out for your local game laws. What you can do in some places, you can't do in all of them. So just be very wary about that. Anyway, so had a good time with that. The birds themselves, I thought were pretty amazing. Just had icicles fall off the roof there. Sorry. Wasn't a bomb. The birds themselves, I thought, were pretty amazing. They are definitely a lot tougher than the birds I've hunted elsewhere. And so after the first 2 I hit, I thought, oh, geez, there's an issue here because they have to have so many more denser feathers to survive in 14 and 7 degree weather than the birds out in other areas. Did you notice that?
Yeah. That's why I kind of recommend most guys shoot 12 gauges. Obviously, a well-placed shot, you'll do just fine, just like you did, Philip. So,
and the birds were beautiful. A lot of times on on a planted bird hunt. They've been in the pen forever. They've pecked each other's tails off, but there were a lot of very, very pretty, fully mature birds. And it wasn't like they went out in the field the day before and planted the birds. They let them go, and they find their own homes in different feedlots all over the place. I mean, that was my understanding. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah, and they can go anywhere they want. So it's not like a penned or a canned hunt, but they do like to hide out in the feedlots, and that's pretty cool. And I think the majority we saw were roosters by a long shot.
Oh yeah.
Stan, what was your favorite shot?
Well, I'll tell you, probably my first one that I got the lead. I mean, I took 3 shots total, but I took the first 2 shots and then moved the sight as it was flying away and let it enough to hit it. So that caught me right away. I just, all of them were sweet, to tell you the truth. The ones that got away, not so much, and it typically happened when on the windier day, and those birds can take off and you don't lead them enough,
They're gone.
Yeah. So the smart birds, obviously we're hunting on both sides of a field. So you need to be very wary of where your gun is pointing. And maybe Grant will talk about this at the very end there, but the smartest birds would get up, stay low, fly down the length of the field, get their speed up, and then bank into the wind.
Mm-hmm.
Those seem to be the guys who've done this before, right? So by the time they get into a shooting area, they're doing 45 miles an hour, and nobody can figure out the lead on that.
What was your favorite shot, Phil?
I saw quite a few pretty remarkable shots out there. But hey, we're running on the end of this break here, so we'll take a break. Folks, Philip Naiman Firing Line Radio Show. Check out our podcast at firinglineradio.com. Visit our sponsors. These are the ones who pay for everything, and that's an amazing thing. Founding Fathers is a sponsor there. So go and get a coffee in the morning and stop by and speak easy at night. Spend your time over there. Lots of great sponsors, lots of great discounts on our page. So go to firinglineradio.com. Look for the advertisers, support them because they support you in the Second Amendment. We'll be right back after this. We had some guy in our crew. I shouldn't say some guy. I just don't remember his name, but he had like an old 1100 30-inch full choke, and he's shooting the 3-inch number 5s, and they were devastated. Oh my goodness.
It's like was that Trey Snyder?
Could have been. Yeah. Oh, I know what my favorite shot is. I'll talk about when we come back. The kamikaze bird. I don't think you guys were on my field, so you didn't see that one, but that was it. Okay. This is our last thing. We want to make sure we cover everything you need on this coming through here. Okay. Ready, Dan?
This portion of the firing line is brought to you by Vortex Optics. Vortex, the force of optics.
Yes! Great hunter. Yes? Fine figure of a man, yes? Yes?
Yes.
That is all you need to know for now.
That's the daily affirmation my wife gives me. So I don't know about you guys, but that's what I hear every morning when I wake up.
Nice.
What a good wife.
Yeah, I don't know if we have to cut that out for the pure lie that one was. Folks, Philip Naiman, Firing Line Radio Show. Hope you're having a great day. Merry Christmas. We're going to have a fantastic Christmas this year in spite of the White House and California's politics and even the stolen election in Arizona. We're moving on from that. We're talking about our pheasant hunt. It was an amazing time. Halverston Hunts in Kennebec, South Dakota. Went with a group from Founding Fathers. Grant sent out some invitations, and the question was posed to me at the last section: what was my favorite shot? My favorite shot is the one that didn't happen. A bird got up from the walkers, the length of the field, maybe 100 yards to our left. It flew low. I think it might have been hit, but it flew low, and then as it gathered speed, it turned left and took out one of the shooters. It actually attacked Paul, and the bird flew right in. And I thought, and if I was going to go, that's the way I'd want to go. If I was a bird, it's like, this isn't cutting it for me. I'm going to take out the shooter. And that was the best shot that I saw. It was on the bird's end. So that was a pretty funny time. But that was
that the one
happened right across the field from me. Sorry?
Was that the one Paul smacked out of the air with the?
Yeah, it was like literally he was across the field from me, and I think they smacked each other. It was mutual combat. It wasn't like a tennis racket. It was mutual combat where the bird was like, you're mine. I'm taking you down with me.
That's great.
That was
I'll tell you, Phil, the best shot of the trip was from
Jesse,
Grant's business partner. Yeah, Jesse. I mean, this bird must have flown, 3 football fields away. Everybody shot at it, and we stopped. And then all of a sudden we hear this single shot, not 2-3 seconds later, and the shot came from across the field, not even on the side of the other bird, and that bird went down. It was like, it all gave us confidence that we could shoot further away. But
that was the best shot.
Yeah, that wasn't on my field. I did miss that one, but I heard about it. That sounds awesome.
Legendary.
So the birds themselves, did you notice that there was two? I don't know if two color phases. I don't know if one was more mature than the other, but there were some that were more tan, and then others that were a dark purple on their chest material. Did you see that?
I don't know if I noticed that.
Yeah, the folks, these birds were actually very beautiful. If you wanted to go and do a hunt up there and get something to mount, piece of cake, absolutely beautiful birds, and good stuff. The other part of this that makes it a very special trip, and I think, somebody says, wow, you're going 46 guys. That's a little overbearing. But the other part of that is everybody, mingles, right? You're not with the same 3 guys for 4 days, and you meet new people, or network, but you meet new people. Conversations were fresh. Everybody was great. We had so many different people's different walks of life that were there. And then in the evening, Grant, you'd arranged for Al to do some talks. Why don't you tell somebody about that, or tell us about that?
Yeah. So, I think the coolest thing about the pheasant hunt is there's really no agenda other than trying to collect a lot of good men into one room and then let the conversations and dialogue happen organically.
And shenanigans.
Yeah, and the shenanigans. But I think through that medium, you have a lot more of an authentic relationship when you either know someone or you're getting to know someone, and you're not necessarily bound by maybe the titles that some individuals have within the group. Everybody's just on a first name basis, and you get to know somebody for really who they are, and all that kind of dissipates into the periphery. And so you just get, I feel in that 4 days, you get a phenomenal introduction into a lot of who these men are, and really at their core, what they're about, which I think is very healthy in the context that most of us live our lives and are to some level defined by what we do. And so that's how we're engaging everybody in our day-to-day life. But when we're able to step outside and go to a place like, a hunt per se like this, it really just, all the barriers are kind of let down. Everybody just has a great time. So in regards to Al, he got up and spoke a little bit his first night about The Rational Male by Rollo Tomasi. And so just some feedback on that, and how to lead if you're a man in your family or your relationship with your wife or spouse. So
it was a great time. And I think the people you assemble, one of the things I thought was amazing was it wasn't like ego driven. Yep. Like I said, people weren't there on an agenda. You didn't know what I didn't know what everybody did. And it was kind of exciting to find out. It's like, wow, there's quite a few movers and shakers in the group, but they weren't like, look at me, very humble, very accomplished. So confident in their own accomplishments. They don't have to go out there and, oh, I got one of those. I did this. I did that. I saw 0 one-upmanship. So I thought that was really an amazing group that just worked together. Nobody cared, So what? You're the best cornhole champion. Big deal. Whatever. I lost. So I'm still bitter about that, but
Yeah, Stan,
Um,
what do you think for your first time?
It just like what you guys have been covering, but nobody was sizing each other up. There was, this is a release from some professional, a ton of professional guys that, their heart is driven by their community, how to make this world a better place, how to raise their families, in that regard. We talked about some deep stuff. I mean, there were some people there that we're talking full spectrum of success, and those, we had some young guys that are just on the fringe of a successful life, and they want to know how do they get there. And it really was just more of an emulation. Like, this I can see now that all this stuff that I may be breaking my back to do, it's about coming down to be, your true core values, how you present yourself, how you make others feel. And I mean, to assemble a, group, just under 50 guys like that, and what a tremendous deal, and it's very apparent that when you walk in there, that is the atmosphere. All of us were just looking forward to, the vehicle to this fellowship was the hunt. But I'll tell you what, the day was not close to being done after we were done hunting. It was just that evening time. I mean, that's what we're thinking about. We laughed a lot on the fields. We root each other on the fields. I mean, we're genuinely happy, to accomplish getting the number of birds that we needed to get for the day. And you really just, you're there to pat each other on the back. And we don't get enough of that in our lives, just this constant and this concentrated deal that, this camaraderie, this fellowship is really what it's all about. I mean, when Grant sent out the dates for next year, I literally looked on the airlines for when I could book my travel, and they were only available 2 weeks into November, so I got to wait a few weeks. But I'm there. Guys are already talking about, a year is going to be a long time before we get back together. So pretty tremendous deal.
A couple thoughts on that. Well, number one, a lot of us had travel plans screwed up when the storm came in, right? So the storm came in, and it was a big scramble getting out of South Dakota as it iced up. And so we had 3 trucks or 3 cars that eventually we were able to get and head south with. But everybody worked together. It was a lot of adversity when you find out an hour before your flight that everything's canceled, and now you're scrambling to see what's going on. But it wasn't, nobody fell apart, and hopping in a car for 24 hours, nobody fell apart. Just, we all dealt with it. Just no big deal. We're just, every minute we're a little closer to getting off this thing. So that was telling to me that everybody kept their mud. Not everybody does in all situations, but the people I was with, we're still able to joke and laugh and all that other stuff. Second thing is, I want to bring up, in February, if people are interested, we're going to try and get a driven pheasant hunt. This will be in California, 25 birds. But if you've ever seen the English shoots where you're behind a blind and the birds come to you, it's a whole new thing, right? Fast shooting, the birds are moving, and fast and overhead and crossing, not so much crossing, but sides, and it'd be a great time. So get a hold of us on firinglineradio.com. You can get my messages there, or on our Instagram page, or email me at firinglineradio@protonmail.com. If you're interested, we'll be taking the cream of the crop that apply, and gonna have a great time with that. So guys, anything else you want to say last minutes?
No, thanks for having me. It was great.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you guys trusting me after years of trying to coax you to get over there, Stan. So thanks. And Philip, thanks, man. So
I love the opportunity. It was amazing.
Attitude.
Gentlemen, thank you for who you are. Thank you for what you do. God bless you, and Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.